all the
change
time.
that
It's,
to what we're doing is now.
if I don't
a
have
governing
one,
body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
And I
got them all circled.
realize
We can change that.
I always got a panicky feeling.
Discombobulates.
Yeah, that I don't have a pen on me.
Mm-hmm. I used to do that one.
I got quiet.
Got quiet. Still got a minute. All right, I'm going to call this meeting of the Sweetwater Commission to order. Ask Ashley Barnes from Trinity Baptist Church to do the invocation, and Commissioner Lee to lead us in the pledges.
Let us pray. All right, Lord, we welcome you. We know you're here, and we welcome you wholeheartedly. I ask that each of us, as brothers and sisters of you, Lord, that we just, that we're obedient to your calling. You have placed us here, that our ears and hearts are open for you, Lord, and that only your vision is here today for the city of Sweetwater. I ask that there is unity amongst us. I ask that anything that is not of you is not welcome here. I'm excited about this meeting. There are going to be great things laid out before you, Lord, and so I just ask that your will be done. You have promised to answer our prayers according to your will, Lord. I ask all of this in your precious, holy name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all for being here this morning. We'll now move to item 4, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of minutes for the meeting held July the 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now move to item 5A, which is a presentation from Karen Hunt, Sweetwater Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, on banner program, and discuss, consider, and act upon request to install banners on city property.
Good morning.
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 A couple of years now, the Nolan County Fair and Rodeo Association had come to the chamber and asked if we could help with a banner program to help promote mostly the county fair as it came up in October, but we'd also like to use now the banner 3 or 4 times throughout the year. We had visited with a member of TxDOT, and they pointed out that there were some poles in town, in the downtown, that were actually city poles and not TxDOT poles, which we've been told we couldn't use a TxDOT pole. We'd have to put our own in the ground. And so we were driven to, Terry Lockett and I were driven to the spot that is right between the Texas Theater and DMI Solutions. There's a city pole there, city light pole, and then just immediately across the street in front of the courthouse. And this is the mock-up from Russ Petty at Creative Graphics. You can see where it would hang, greeting folks coming into town from the west, coming down the east direction of Broadway. And this may say the Rattlesnake Roundup. He just kind of mocked it up with this would be one of the events we would want to hang the signs. So Russ has looked at the poles to see about if they're the right sturdiness, and he believes these would work well. He would be installing the cable across that would stay permanent from the Texas Theater pole across to the courthouse pole. And those are city poles, and so what we're requesting today is the use of those poles. Creative Graphics team will be installing the hardware, the cable, and the construction of the banner. The banner will be an air mesh banner, and that's pretty much true to size right there is what you would see. It would have a white background, red lettering. We may change the graphics just a bit, But the first one coming up is the October 5th, 6th, and 7th is the Nolan County Fair and Rodeo, and we'd like to advertise there with a banner program. And David, did you include the other one at the Newman? The other spot would be the entrance of Newman Park. This would require the installation of poles. We are seeking a donation from Taylor Electric to install the poles and donate the poles.
And this would also be on city property to install those poles.
So these are the two we're asking today, is the use of the city property and the use of those city poles to put these banners up. Between the chamber and a donation from Nolan County Coliseum Board, we'll be paying for the banner and the hardware to Creative Graphics.
Do you have any idea on what the height is gonna be on the one downtown?
TxDOT requires a minimum of like 18 foot.
Okay.
So we still, even though it's y'all's poles, we still have to go by TxDOT.
We have all of, and
Okay.
that's still in, we've not heard the final word back from TxDOT. We've put everything in. And so we are still waiting the actual yes from TxDOT, so that this is the program we want to go through with. And like I said, we'd like to use we're looking at the October Fair and Rodeo, Rattlesnake Roundup, the Christmas Crafts Fair and Parade, and there was one other, Sparks in the Park. So those are the four. We'd just like to promote and advertise a little bit more visual downtown, entrance to the Coliseum area.
Karen, who's gonna maintain the cables if there's something goes wrong, say one breaks and falls?
I believe Russ Petty is working with us on that. We have spoken with David in earlier and asking about having the banners put up. City would help us with the banner, actually getting the banner up and down. And TxDOT very specific on 30 days prior to event, 7 days after it's over. It can go up no earlier than 30 days prior and has to be down 7 days after.
Are you looking to expand this, say, to Lamar Street?
Yes,
and,
the Lamar
and the
Street,
East Broadway?
we really have looked, and I'm telling you, once you start looking and you see how electrical poles and things you're dealing with, the Lamar entrance almost becomes the V at where Lamar comes up turns into Broadway, into Elm. Right there at that V, there's already a welcome sign there, and if we could get the shrubs maintained and the trees trimmed back, we feel like we could build off of that welcome sign and we've already spoken to TxDOT, you cannot put anything permanent there. It has to be something that would break away or that you can pull up. But if we can maybe build back on, we've spoken, we believe that city property, once you get behind that shrub, that if we could build on that existing welcome sign and trim those shrubs and trees down, that would be a very visual spot, because when you're coming up from under that the bridge, the railroad crossings, that's kind of where your eyes go. It would be a nice, if we could beautify that up just a bit. And then the other spot is if we could ever figure out something out on East Broadway. But right now, where you would have to place the poles and the length of cable and the amount of wind, so it may have to be something off-road. But we are wanting one. We are hoping to get one at all four thoroughfares.
That was our vision at first. You know how busy we are at the Coliseum, and we hear daily, and David and I have talked, people in Sweetwater said, when nothing goes on, I'm like, oh my gosh. And so Karen and I talked last year, half the people didn't even know the Fair and Rodeo was going on, and we're on TV, we're on radio, we're in the newspaper, and we're like, how in the world can we get people to know what's going on, not only there, but the WASP, stuff like that. And
That was another one. If we wanted the WASP reunion, that would be another banner. Or if the WASP wanted a banner, then we'd start looking into whether or not, we start providing an access for another event or organization to use the site. But that's a whole nother conversation later.
But we can drive anywhere down the country, Llano, Fredericksburg, and what's going on, or something.
Because they have street banners.
Yeah.
So
we're like, duh, why are we not doing something like this, not realizing all the red tape you have to go through to get
and
a banner.
we scaled it back because several wanted the bunting, and bunting doesn't happen anymore. So anyway, they wanted the old county fair look, and it's just TxDOT's not. That's too hard to come by. So this is what we've come up with in staying within TxDOT's regulations.
and your regulations, whatever regulations you guys might put, you know, cause it will be on your poles, it will be on your property. You know, even the one going into, the Coliseum, Newman Park, that is your property. So I mean, there'll be some guidelines from you guys that we would want to put in our files, just so that we stay within y'all's regulations also.
So you're just seeking the, we
Permission,
say go ahead and do it?
just permission to move on.
Depending on TxDOT's answer, which, we kinda heard it probably wouldn't be a problem if we stayed within the guidelines, but we just need y'all's approval to go forward with this, cause we're kinda running out of time to get this done, get everything in place before October.
Creative graphics would do all the signs.
Creative graphics.
Are these streetlights, are those the streetlights you're wanting to put on?
Yes.
So Encore doesn't allow those types of banners on our streetlights because, of the possibility that it could pull them in and it will loosen the bottom of the poles. I think those are draft embedded, so, and regardless, we don't allow little boxes
Okay.
like that on the street.
Well, there you go. Okay.
So those are Encores, not the city?
Well, the city pays for the streetlights, but the poles are, owned and maintained.
Well, there we go. So,
Okay, so we'll remove. We'll go back to the drawing board. We're gonna find a place.
Still, your plans for Newman Park, I mean, those could progress.
Yeah,
Those would be poles y'all are gonna put in on
Right.
our property.
right.
And they're gonna be the telephone pole construction. They're gonna be the,
Well, if Taylor Electric's gonna put poles in Newman Park, can Encore put some poles up for us?
well, and it was just, one of the committee members just had a relationship with Taylor Electric and said, I believe I can get those poles put in and donated. So that was the reason behind Taylor Electric.
And our problem's been, our vision was to have it in all 4 entrances, but when you get to looking, there's nowhere to put those because of highline wires. I've really never noticed how many highline wires and how trashed up Broadway is with overhead lines. It's unbelievable, cause you have to be outside of a certain distance from the edge of the road to their right of way. Well, all the poles and electric lines are in their right of way, and these would have to be inside to not interfere with any street lights, any electrical lines. And so when we found these, it was like, oh my gosh, these are the only ones that don't have highline wires going to them.
Our next thought is a pole somewhere similar there. And we'd have to look into then the cost of the pole.
And that's been a big
I don't know
cost.
that we'd want telephone poles down.
No,
Chambers,
No, you'd want
Certainly a more attractive.
attractive
alternative.
pole.
And that's where the expense has been, not in the banners themselves, but all the hardware, and then if you have to do any concrete work to set a pole, cause both sides of this would be concrete, you know, we'd have to cut into that, somehow sink a hole, make it look nice, cause you don't, I mean, that right there is really nice. I mean, the courthouse and then across the street, the DMI, they've kept that really nice, so I'm like you wouldn't wanna stick a telephone pole up there, you'd want something that was very attractive. Our whole thought behind this was trying to get Sweetwater involved, not only at the Coliseum, but the stuff Chamber puts on, the WASH puts on. There's so much stuff going on here in Nolan County, and everybody said, well, we don't know about it. So we were thinking, you know, if you can't see one of them banners and know something's going on when a banner comes up, you know, that was kind of our idea behind this.
But it looks like we're going back to the board and find another solution for the poles. So I'm glad we heard before we had it up. So appreciate your input.
Is there anything you can do to sturdy those poles up? I mean, is there something, even with that mesh?
Yeah, our standards don't allow
Okay.
the banners, so we do allow them to be on this, like a single banner on the side of a pole, that sticks out.
It sticks out, so
But
the
not when they
township
stretch
banners.
across.
Well, we have talked about in the future
About
getting
those.
some of those, we could use during Christmas, different holiday type stuff, just kind of beautify the downtown area, and so that might be something that we put rodeo or something side poles,
Karen?
side flags up.
Do y'all wanna take the whole project back to the drawing board, or would you like to have approval? on
Can we have
moving-
approval in Newman Park?
So
And then we'll
moved.
take
Second.
the,
And would request that the city work with the chamber as far as looking at alternatives for downtown.
perfect. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Did you get the changes? Okay, we'll now move to item 5B, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval, a resolution of the City of Sweetwater authorizing submission of a contract amendment, a request for Texas Community Development Block Grant Program Contract Number 7217451 between the city and the Texas Department of Agriculture. Any questions?
And this just applies to the water lines we're installing? Okay. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A resolution of the City of Sweetwater authorizing submission of a contract agreement request for Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, contract number 7217451 between the city and the Texas Department of Agriculture. We'll now move to item 5C, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approving of ordinance to rezone a 38-acre more or less tract in Section 51, Block 22, TNP Railroad Surveys in Nolan County, Texas, identifying as parcel ID 17976, contract number N0280-0004-00 in Nolan County Central Appraisal District records, which consist of approximately 15.5 acres, which is currently zoned as B dwelling district, and approximately 22.5 acres, which is currently zoned E dwelling district, all to a K industrial district.
Move we enter into public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item?
Yes, on twofold. One, Ken Becker, Sweetwater Economic Development. Seed also owns land that butts right up against this, and we support this opportunity. Just a little historic perspective, it used to be owned by the Industrial Foundation. Years ago, Seed bought all that land when TST was gonna come into town, and it probably should have been rezoned at that point in time, and they just didn't think about it. So as we're working with Global Fiberglass Solutions, this would be something that we definitely support for a manufacturing opportunity.
Ken, on that map,
Yes,
what
sir.
does Seed own?
I can't tell. Left-hand side purple,
All the purple?
not all the purple, just from
Up to the north.
Alabama. We own just about 20 acres between there and the cotton storage. That's kind of back behind where Ludlam's building
Is
is.
Seed's property already Zone K?
I don't think so. It is? Okay, good. It is, yeah.
So this would just kind of conform
Yes.
the entire area to a K zone?
It would kind of clean it up really for the purpose of what it was supposed to be for originally. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have any questions of Kirk Harris?
Move we approve the zoning change.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll now read the ordinance into the record, amending the zoning ordinances of the City of Sweetwater, Texas to rezone a 38-acre more or less tract in Section 51, Block 22, TNP Railroad Survey in Nolan County, Texas, identified as parcel ID 17976, account number N0280-0004-00 in Nolan County Central Appraisal District records, which consist of approximately 15.5 acres, which is currently zoned as a B, and approximately 22.5 acres, which is currently zoned an E, all to a K industrial district. We'll now move to item 5D, which is discuss and consider act upon authorizing staff to advertise for bids for fuel, oil, and lubrication products and hot mix coal lay asphalt for use for October 2018 through September 2019, and to advertise in the newspaper August the 19th, 2018, and August the 26th, 2018, with bids to open at a public meeting on September 10th, 2010.
I move we authorize staff to go out for these bids.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll now move to item 5E, which is to open and consider sealed proposals received on group health, dental, and life insurance employee benefits for year 2018, 2019.
So moved.
I think you've got the packages up there.
Yeah.
You've got a number of, life, dental, and you've even got some vision quotes in there this year. You don't already have a vision plan. We used to, I think, and maybe we did away with it because there wasn't enough participation, I don't remember, no. But you got a couple of quotes. I thought TML was gonna quote on your, health, and I sent them all the information, and they were in the process of doing that, and I heard from them yesterday, and they decided not to. Because one of the things that I put in the RFP was that we required either a discount guarantee or at least a disclosure of what they anticipated their medical discounts to be, and they didn't want to do that because they just didn't want to do that. So anyway, so we've got one medical, and then you've got a number of health and dental, and life, and dental. So typically what we do then is we take those and we come back a month from now, and so would that be the 9/11 meeting? Is that 9/10 meeting? Okay. So we'll come back on 9/10 then and present our recommendations, if that's okay with y'all.
Okay. Motion to table?
Are they opened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is 9/11.
It is.
Oh, it is
Tuesday,
9/11,
9/11,
okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'll be in touch later.
Work your magic, Nancy. Thank you.
We'll try.
Do I need a motion to table this?
Move we table this until the 9/11 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now move to item 5F, which is to second and final reading to discuss, consider, and act upon repealing Chapter 4 entitled Alarm Systems of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sweetwater and adopting a superseding ordinance, Chapter 4 entitled Alarm Systems. This item requires a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item?
Thank you, gentlemen. My name's Randy Wilkes. I'm the owner of Sierra Security Systems here in Sweetwater, Texas, and I would just like to speak on behalf of this ordinance. I spent 13 years as a cop in Sweetwater and didn't know we had an ordinance on it. So we do now, and we're revising it. I've been expecting this for quite some time, and I'm certainly not against the ordinance. There are some clarifications that I would like to have. I've talked with the chief just a little bit about this morning as he came in. He did clarify some things. I want to know what the alarm industry's responsibility in this is as far as informing the public. Are you going to inform the public? Am I going to have to inform my people or my customers? I want your input on that. And also the wordage on the, I talked a little bit with the chief again this morning on this, the wordage on the chief of police being the sole custody of the ordinance on this. And in other words, if one of my customers come in that I've put an alarm system in for, he goes to City Hall or the police department to get a permit, does he have to go directly to the chief? He has told me that that's going to be a online type situation, and which is good because the public can have access to that. I have looked at several cities that I employ my business in, and that's the way they do it. They can go online, they can get that information, they can submit their application for their permit at that time. I appreciate the chief bringing that to my attention a while ago. And that's basically all I have about it. The fees are comparable with the other cities that I work with. I can only speak for myself and my company that deals with the alarm systems in the cities that I work for. Do you have any questions from me?
With the cities you deal with, we're the only one that does not currently enforce an alarm.
Of
Ordinance.
cities of 10,000 and above, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Any of the other cities that you deal with, what fees have they set?
Pretty much about the same. They're pretty comparable with. This is probably one of the hardest ordinances to enforce, in my opinion. You know, it's just because an alarm has to if they don't have the permit, then the alarm has to go off. A false alarm has to happen. The law enforcement has to be responded to it. And they got to find out through the record system that this person does not have a permit, and then they go through the proper channels to take care of that. I have, when our installers put an alarm system in, they have to go through the training of how to operate the system. I now have in Sweetwater have incorporated in my contract that here is the ordinances of the city of Sweetwater. You have to abide by this. You have so long to get your permit. Here's where you go to get your permit. I've got to do a little revision on that now because I understand they'll be able to go online and get that permit, which that's great. I try all my due diligence to make sure that my people are informed, my customers are informed as much as possible, and I can't, you know, that's as far as I can go with it. You know, I can't make them go do anything, but we will do our due diligence to make sure that that our customers are informed, our new customers are informed, and then I'm hoping that it's up to you to get the information to the present customers that they have to go get a permit to.
One of the benefits of an annual permitting is that it gives people the opportunity to update their call list when an alarm. Your typical alarm owner, how diligent are they currently about? And don't use me as an example. Okay? How diligent are they about maintaining their alarm
Once
system?
a year, in a billing cycle, I send out a questionnaire on has anything changed with your alarm system. I get those back. I get about 60 to 70% of those back. And that's the only time that I get. A lot of them that comes back, it says, well, that person hadn't worked here for 10 years. And I'm supposed to know that. You know, I don't know that. That's up to the people to give me that information. And it is changed immediately. And it's all done electronically. I don't have to do a whole lot of work there. It's real easy to do. But to answer your question, hardly ever. Unless I instigate that change.
What percentage of the homes in Sweetwater do you think have alarm systems?
You know, that's kind of my business to go around, and as I drive around the city and the only way I can judge who's not my customers is the yard signs in the yard. If a company is legitimate and they're putting yard signs, a yard sign is about 50% of your alarm system. So if they're not putting the yard signs, I don't know. But I do drive around a lot, the city, and a lot of the cities that I work in just to check that. And I would say in Sweetwater, probably 25 to 30% of the people have alarm systems.
Okay.
And that's the only way I can judge that is by a yard sign.
In the ordinance we're talking about doesn't in any way apply to the home video doorbell alarm systems, those. I mean, it's strictly for folks that subscribe to a business.
Subscribe to an alarm system where law enforcement or fire protection is going to be dispatched to their house. if an alarm company is doing their job right on, you know, the part in here about false alarms, you know, that's great. I try my best to educate my people about false alarms. I've been standing here about probably 15 minutes maybe. Just take the Metroplex, for example. There's probably been 15 to 20,000 false alarms since I've been standing up here. There's no way law enforcement can respond to all that. So if the alarm companies are doing their job like they're supposed to be, the state of Texas, the alarm system is governed by the Texas Department of Public Safety, and they are supposed to do everything in their power on a burglar alarm to get a hold of the key holder first before law enforcement is ever called to the scene. That is the norm. If they don't get a hold of somebody, if I haven't done my stuff to get enough key holders for them, the state of Texas requires 2 key holders on every alarm system. If I'm not doing my stuff to get those 2 key holders, and believe me, there's some of them I don't have anybody else. That's all you're going to get. But if I'm getting my stuff right and the alarm company is doing their stuff right, the police department should never be called on a false alarm. They still get called and they still roll. I've answered a gazillion of them. You know, they're still going to have to go, and I understand all this. I understand why. Believe me, I understand why you have to have false alarm ordinances. Anything else?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
How many false alarms do we get in Sweetwater a day?
Good grief, I have no idea. The chief would be a better example.
It's like everything else, it comes and goes in spurts. We can go a month without anything and then we'll have 5 or 6 a day.
What about car alarms?
I wish there was a way I could regulate those.
They're not, we don't even install car alarms. I have no
That's a
intention.
whole different industry and it doesn't fall under DPS's realm.
Right.
There's no, and I wish there was some guidance on that because so many of those are put in feather-legged and the wind blows and they go off.
We don't do them because if they have a flat when they drive off, it's our fault.
What about alarms outside the city?
We're not regulating.
Talking about city ordinance.
Okay,
All be city ordinance.
so will the DPS and the county sheriff still be able to respond to city calls if they're the closest one there? I mean, what if it's,
Oh, it doesn't prohibit anybody from responding. This is mainly to hold people accountable and the alarm industry accountable for the maintenance of their equipment and we have people to get a hold of and that. But it doesn't keep anybody from responding.
okay, so it's about something that's running up, getting it organized and getting it. Oh,
Correct.
okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Question for the chief. And it kind of follows up on the question you were just asked. What's the scope of the issue as far as y'all responding to nuisance alarms? Can you quantify it at all?
Again, like I alluded to with the gentleman back here, it comes and goes. I mean, we may go a month or 2 without anything, and then we may go 8 months where we're just constantly having various alarms go off. And to be honest with you, Grant's department probably responds to more false fire alarms from different facilities across the city than we do as far as commercial. That happens quite frequently.
Chief, are the false alarms mainly commercial or are they mainly residential? Or both?
The majority tend to be commercial because some of the commercial facilities have panic alarms and the businesses in their haste of hiring people don't always train staff thoroughly on how to wear panic alarms, and so when they're moving freight, they're picking stuff up and pressing the panic alarms and thereby activating the system. And so that's part of the problem. So hopefully with this ordinance and educating them, and if we have to hit them a time or 2 in the pocketbook, they'll start teaching their staff how to properly use the equipment.
I will say this, that 95% of false alarms are man-made.
Yes, sir.
You know, they're Yeah, and panic buttons do not, they don't call a key holder, they call the law
it goes
enforcement
straight to us.
directly to them. I said a while ago, the burglar alarms, and I should have went ahead with that, but the panic button goes directly to the police department.
Because they'll have the panic, if you'll notice at some of the convenience stores, they'll have the little chain around their neck. That's a panic button here, and then
Oh.
they'll have a panic button right underneath or somewhere in close proximity to the register. Those will go direct to the system, and the monitoring company will not call a key holder, they call us, because they think there's actually an armed robbery taking place. So we're not gonna put a key holder in harm's way.
In the ordinance, there's an exemption for the permit fee for any person over 65, but it doesn't specify if that's for residential or business, or what's the intent on there?
I think, from what I remember in looking at it, I think it was solely intended for the residential
Okay.
aspect. If I may speak to some of the stuff that Mr. Wilkes mentioned up, it's going to be a group effort to notify those that have alarm systems. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to push it out in the media. We've talked about doing it on a couple notifications on water bills, having it on our website, and pushing that stuff out so that everybody's aware of it. As alarm systems are maintained or installed, the alarm industry notifies them that we have the ordinance, and we'll give them, like he said, he's going to modify his letter, which will give them that hyperlink to go to PMAM. And if they don't have access to the web and they have a hard time doing that, my staff and I would be more than happy to walk them through that process.
Let me ask you a question about people over 65. Do they need to go to that website and put in that they do have an alarm system, but they're over 65 and not required to pay the fee?
Yes, sir. There'll be a way for us to verify that through PMAM, and we'll build it. They won't build our link until we get the ordinance passed, and then I submit it to them. Then we sit down and we go through and we'll see what our link is going to look like, and we'll go through that process. And again, there are a lot of folks that are 65 and older that, well, even under 65, that don't like the internet and don't like to mess with that stuff. So there again, we would assist them in that endeavor. More than happy to. Let's see, that's one of the notes that I had here. Like I said, PSAs, the water bills, website, and industry. Yep, I think I've covered everything that was mentioned by Mr. Wilkes.
Chief, how do you get the word out to those who are using do-it-yourself alarm systems rather than having an alarm company work with them?
Well, that's where the PSAs and the information, as we do respond to those false activations or such, word of mouth will get around. But as we respond to those false activations or mishandling of equipment, the officers will educate them and provide them with the link to come into compliance.
What kind of do-it-yourself thing?
You can get them
Create
from
an alarm.
Sam's and
Sam's, Walmart,
You-
Home Depot,
any number of places. There's several things online where you can Simply Safe.
all those kind of things are available out there.
That trigger a police response?
Unfortunately, they
Yes, sir.
Okay, wasn't aware
I
of
didn't
that.
even know.
And see, where Ring is a little bit, Ring is different, is that it doesn't trigger our response. But the industry has started working with Ring and implementing those type of devices in the system. So Ring itself and the company it doesn't report to us. It's, somebody else is going to hear their alarm go off if they have that piece of it. But it's going to be triggered by the homeowner. If they're off on vacation, they would call and say, hey, I've got somebody messing around my house. Would you mind sending an officer over in that area and give us a description?
I can call in a
Is
lot
that
of
acceptable
cats.
practice for you?
I'm sorry?
What you just said about the homeowner being able to call from
You use
vacation?
Ring.
We'll
Is that
always
okay?
respond to a call. Yes, sir. I do. There's
We
several
had
people
it
that already call us on
Out
that.
at our
And that's not a big problem?
ranch, I have desktop.
That's what I'm
To
thinking.
be honest with you, yes, sir.
So they should
Yeah,
have to
or it's
prearrange
a
the
Google.
two key thing too, or whatever, I mean,
Well,
right?
that's the problem though, is it's not classified as an alarm monitor. It's
Ah.
not monitored. And so that's one of the loops in the state law and whatnot, is that that's not really recognized as an alarm. It's more of a do-it-yourself surveillance.
I would give anything if the DPS would come in and say those things.
That's
are not
live
right.
feeds right now. Yeah.
That's live.
Consumer.
It's very much consumer driven, QVC and everything else behind
What
that.
about the smoke detectors? Some of them, you know, are pretty, what do you call it? They're wired in series in the whole house, and when it goes off, it's like, everybody knows it.
Again, it's not monitored off-site, it doesn't
I've got
trigger an
Sierra
automatic
Security.
response.
Okay, so it's all about the automatic response. Okay.
Anything that triggers a response by police or fire is what this is covering.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Move we close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We've already heard from Brian, so how about a motion on this amendment?
I would move we adopt this ordinance with these changes. Section 4-3G, where it says no permit fee shall be required. Insert the word residential, no residential permit fee shall be required. And then throughout the ordinance, there is reference to city council. I recommend that pending the city charter election, that those be changed to city's governing body.
Governing body.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now read the ordinance into the record, repealing Chapter 4 entitled Alarm Systems of the Code Ordinances of the City of Sweetwater and adopting a superseding ordinance, Chapter 4 entitled Alarm Systems, providing for the issuance of permits for alarm systems in business and residential, and providing for a penalty for violations of the ordinance and creating an emergency. We'll now move to item 5G, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approving an ordinance calling for a special election to be held in the City of Sweetwater on November the 6th, 2018, for the purpose of amending the Home Rule Charter, making a provision for the conduct of the election, and resolving other matters, incidents, and related to such election, and declaring an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve this ordinance, which may be corrected for any typos or grammar corrections that are discovered, and calling for a special election to amend the city's home rule charter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have Mr. Santee online, I believe, right now. Is that right, Dan? If there's gonna be any questions about that, or y'all have anything to discuss with legal, we can do that at this time. If not, then we're ready to move on to the
I have
next
no
item.
questions.
Okay.
Tell him not to bill us for it.
I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The ballot is, the sample ballot is in this, but it's not this whole thing. It's just like
It'll
5
just
or
be
6 pages, I think. Is that right?
It's gonna be, just the measures
Okay.
will be on the ballot, yes, sir.
All right.
The propositions, I'm sorry. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, it's 6 of.
Out of my ignorance, may I ask what the home rule charter is? If this is the home rule charter, I don't understand.
It's the governing document of the city. It's the rules we live by.
Okay, I'll now read the ordinance into the record. An ordinance calling for a special election be held in the City of Sweetwater on November 6, 2018 for the purpose of amending the Home Rule Charter, making provisions for the conduct of the election, and resolving other matters, incidents, and related to such election, and declaring an effective date. Okay, we'll now move to item 5H, which is a presentation from Mr. Thompson from the Texas Municipal Retirement System.
We need to correct those.
Good morning.
Morning, Becky.
Again, my name's Sean Thompson with TMRS, and it's my honor to come out and talk to you guys today for a couple hours at least, and no, just see if y'all are listening. I just wanted to go over what your retirement plan is for the city employees, and then talk about a couple changes that have been listed with me. In your packet, you should have this little snapshot right here, and I'm gonna go down that just real quickly. TMRS is a hybrid pension plan, so that means that the employees participate with a contribution of their own, and then the city matches that with the matching ratio. And so you can see that the employee's contribution rate is 7%. And then upon retirement, it gets matched at a 200% matching ratio or a 2-to-1 match. Again, that doesn't happen until they make it to retirement. So in order for them to actually make it to retirement, they've got to work for at least 5 years and be age 60, or currently have 25 years in of service, and then it doesn't matter what their age is. Okay, one of the proposed changes is to go to a 20-year rural city, to where it'd be 20 years and then it doesn't matter what their age is as well. And I'll come back to that here in a little bit. And then you have a couple different additional provisions. You have the supplemental death benefit that pays to the beneficiary of somebody that passes away. So that's kind of like a little term life insurance policy for the member. The updated service credit is an inflationary tool that helps keep their retirement more in line with what their current salary is or what their current city plan is. And by city plan, we refer to the 7% 2-to-1. The annuity increase is after the employee retires and becomes a retiree, their annuity is fixed unless the city has the cost of living adjustment adopted, which after 13 months of being retired, they could see their annuity go up based on 70% of the consumer price index. The consumer price index is just the way of TMRS showing what inflation is from one year to the next. The employee would get 70% of that. So if inflation was 3%, they would get 70% of that, or a 2.1% increase in their monthly annuity that would continue on for the rest of their life. Then we also have the restricted service credit. What that does is that gives the employees a time credit only, so there is no monetary benefit to the employees, but they get a time credit for any public agency or public authority that they've worked for anywhere in the United States. This does include military time. This includes any other state, city, county, water district, transit authority, you name it. And then finally, the buyback. The buyback, not many people are going to be eligible for. Buyback is when you take previously refunded TMRS time and you are allowed to put it back into TMRS through your current city adopting a buyback. The last time you guys adopted a buyback was back in 1991. So an employee would have had to have been employed with the city in 1991 to be able to put back those funds in. So the likelihood of still having those people out there are probably pretty slim. And so that is a quick rundown of your city plan. To go to that 20-year retirement, which I talked about, which by the way, that is the most common retirement eligibility in TMRS, is having 20 years any age, along with the 5-year vesting. You guys are already at the lower 5-year vesting. There is a 10-year vesting. So there's a 10-year vesting and a 25-year retirement. You guys have already done the vesting part to come down to 5. On the retirement side, you could go from the 25 down to the 20. And if you will turn to your change study, this shows the cost of that. So you'll see the current plan on the left and the proposed plan number 1. The only difference is underneath the 20-year any age retirement, which is 2 lines above the contribution rates in bold there. You see that the current, it says no, and then plan 1 says to change it to yes. So that would increase your retirement rate from 17.91% to 18.76%, or basically that's 85 basis points or 0.85% increase to make that change. And the reason for that is because up until the time that you make the change, you have always been assuming that people are going to wait until 25 years to retire. So you have a set number of years to actually fund that money in before that person is eligible to retire. Now, if it goes down to 20 years, you have 5 less years to fund that retirement, so you have to have a little bit more money in there. And so that's the change. It's not changing anything with the deposit rate or the city matching. What we find at TMRS is that with a city that is a 7% 2-to-1 plan, if an employee retires after 20 years of service, they are only replacing about 40% of their salary. So that's a pretty low number for somebody that's worked 20 years to actually retire and live off of that dollar amount. So what we see more times than not is people staying until they've worked 25 or even 30 years at that point, because when you go from 20-year to 25 years, just based on the more money that you're putting in, the more interest that you're earning, the more matching that you're getting, and that you're becoming older, because TMRS uses a life expectancy to calculate that monthly benefit. All four of those reasons really make your monthly annuity check jump up by working 5 more years. And so then somewhere you're closer to 60-65% of final pay that they would be seeing at that point. So, but this would give the opportunity for those to retire after 20 years.
So at 20, you're saying you can retire, you probably just can't afford to retire.
That's right.
And that becomes more possible at 25, 30, 35 plus.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
There is one other provision that I was asked about that the city may want to look into, and that is the military credit. TMRS offers a military credit. You won't see it on here because it would be listed under your additional provisions, and so it's just not listed there. But what the military credit does is it allows you a time-only credit on one side, and then on the other side it has a purchase plan. And the purchase plan allows somebody that has served previously to pay $15 per month up to 5 years of service. So if somebody had 5 years of military service and they paid $15 per month, that'd be $900 that they get to put into TMRS, which then when they go to retire, they would be matched at that 2-to-1 rate, okay? Generally what we find, it's best for those people to do it early than later so that they can earn interest on that $900 that they put in. If they do $900 and then retire immediately, it generally doesn't help their monthly annuity but by like $5, okay? Now there is a stipulation for the purchase, and the stipulation for the purchase is that employee has to have been an employee with the city on or before December 2003. So anybody hired after 2003 would not be eligible for that military option, even if you guys do adopt the military option, okay? But that is something out there. The time only, you already have that through the restricted credit that we talked about. That does give them military, so you've already got the time only. So if you were to adopt the military credit, it would basically be just for that purchase, and then it would for whoever was here before 2003 to be able to do that purchase. I don't know how many people that is with the city, but I would venture to guess it'd be less than 4 or 5. Questions? Any questions about pensions in general? Issues that you see in the news?
Regarding our funded ratios, how do we stack up against other cities our size? Are we where we need to be, or do we need to be a little more aggressive?
I think so. Most pension experts will say anything over 80% is considered well funded. You guys are at 81.6%. So we at TMRS take a step further. We don't want to just look at one number, at a time, because you could change. There are some things in a pension system that you could change to make your funding ratio go up or down just by making how you evaluate your liabilities. So what we do is we look at not only the number, but where are you trending? If you're at a 90% funding ratio, that may sound great, but 5 years ago you were at 100. So that tells us that there's an issue there. And every city in TMRS, based on our funding structure that our board has approved, every city in TMRS is always trending up towards 100. So not only are you over the 80% funded mark, but you are continuing to trend up towards 100%. So funding-wise, you guys are doing just fine.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we'll now ask David Villa, City Manager, to give a presentation on 2019 budget.
looks like we're set. Just kind of wanted to give a presentation on what is in your budget, what made it into what we're calling at this time the city manager's budget. Once you all approve the budget sometime in late September, it'll become the commission's budget. But for right now, it's the city manager's budget. And wanted to go ahead and just let everybody know what's in there, kind of from a high level perspective. Don't want to get in the weeds too much. We're happy to answer the weed questions if we need to at this point or later on in August and September before we call everything official. But for now, just kind of give a higher level overview of what is in that budget document that we're very proudly presenting to you this morning. As with anything else, really, the types of presentations that we give, both public and internal, kind of want to start with the mission and the values. This is the reason why we're here at the City of Sweetwater, the reason that we do the things that we do and how we do them, more importantly. We lead with trust and respect to provide a vibrant, secure community for all. I think you'll see that mission and that motto in the items that we're proposing to be funded in fiscal year 19. And the way that we do that, I think, is really the most important thing is we utilize our value system to fulfill our mission. The values being professionalism, integrity, continuous improvement, and teamwork. We couldn't have put together this budget document without utilizing those values to try to live up to our mission here at the City of Sweetwater. And I think now is an appropriate time to thank all of the staff for all the great work that you all did in helping us put together this budget document. It really is a team effort. We couldn't do it. One person couldn't do it. As good as Patty is, I think she'll agree with me on that. It takes a team to do it. I would like to think that we were professional in doing it. We put together a budget with integrity, continuously trying to improve ourselves in the organization. And like I said before, I'll say it again, we could only do it by working together as a team. So thank you to the staff in particular. Thank you to Patty and your staff for the great job that you did in putting together this budget document. What we'll talk about, really just kind of start off with the budget assumptions, what everything is based on in the document. Sales and property taxes on the general fund revenue side. Funded and unfunded items, I think they're both equally important. It's important what goes into the budget, but also what didn't get to make it for whatever reason, and typically that reason centers around money. It's a budget, so it's going to deal a lot with the money. We'll go over some items or some proposed changes to the central rate schedule, including the alarm ordinance that was just passed. Kind of review with you all the budget calendar one more time, how things are going to start moving very quickly the rest of August and certainly into September, where we'll have 3 meetings in September, and then open the floor to any questions that anybody might have. Zach, can you kind of adjust that volume, please? On the budget assumptions, really just kind of a list of items that we took into consideration when putting together things on the revenue side, on the expense side as well. The impact of the sales tax and how that's been trending over the last 12 to 16 months or so. We always want to budget at the lowest property tax rate that's necessary. We don't want to go above that. We certainly don't want to go below that and leave any money on the table. No rate increase at this time for residential water and sewer. Continue streamlining where possible. Staffing is also a big consideration. As you know, in the general fund, a lot of the money in the general fund goes towards salaries and benefits. That's one of our greatest expenses, particularly in the general fund. So we've got to pay attention to staffing, and we do when we lose positions through attrition or whatever the reason may be. We always take a hard look at, do we need to fill that position? Can we hold it off for a little while? Can we reclassify from full-time to part-time? Or do we need to reclassify from part-time to full-time, kind of the other way? Can we combine positions? Those kinds of things. But really kind of the bottom line is we don't want to negatively impact any kind of services that we offer. The public, with good reason, has a high expectation of services and expects a high level from city employees. We hope to meet and exceed that in everything that we do. But once you start messing with staffing and those kinds of things, there's a possibility that services could be impacted. So we want to do our best not to head down that road whenever we can. real quick on the sales tax from 13 to present, you'll see how we were doing the budgeted amounts in 13, 14, 15. Kind of started off with a base of 2.5 and then rose a little bit through the years. A budgeted amount of fiscal year 2016 of about $3.4 million. Didn't quite hit that number that year, but got really, really close. Got really, really close on that. And then in 17, which was my first full budget year as your city manager, budgeted a little bit down from that at 2.85. Didn't quite get there. That's when we were having some of those sales tax allocations come in a little short from the state, and it kind of fell short during the whole fiscal year. We budgeted 2.85 in fiscal year 18, kind of kept it even, and had a bit of an uptick on that, thankfully so. We're looking to end up a little over $3 million. If September comes in at what we had September 17, that's about the number that we'll see, a little over $3 million. So we'll exceed our projected budgeted amount for fiscal 18 by about 5.75% roughly. Now we'll get firmer numbers later next month, but that's what we're projecting as of right now. We really had a fairly solid year in fiscal 18, and we hope the trend continues into 19 and beyond. For that reason, we're looking to increase the budgeted amount for sales tax from 2.85 to 2.98, which would be a 4.56% increase from this year to 19. So that's what we're proposing. That's what's in this budget document, just to let you all know. And that's an important piece of it because on the revenue side, that's what we would expect. We hope for more, but we would expect that 2.98 to come in. We all agree at the staff level that that's a good number, given the way that we're trending. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably wouldn't happen. But we're looking at that. We're looking to meet and exceed that number in fiscal 19. On the property tax side, just a look at the rates again. I know y'all have seen this, but we are not proposing a property tax rate increase here in Sweetwater. We would propose to keep it, and that's what's in the budget document. Those are the numbers that are in there at 0.497423 cents per $100 evaluation. And we're not sure at this point what some of the other cities are doing. These are current numbers, just like our numbers current. Some of them may go up, some of them may go down, some of them, like us, may propose to stay at their current rate. We'll have a better indication as we move into September and October, and then we'll be able to update those numbers, see where we fall. Typically, the cities move in proportion to one another. They might move up a penny or two, and you kind of keep those rankings, if you will, or those proportions intact. On the values, rates, and assessed taxes from 14 to present, this is an important table here. We're kind of looking at, the numbers in red are deficits to those numbers. Since I've been here on board as your city manager in 16, 17, and we're now 18 into 19, what we're looking at is we had a bit of a downturn in assessed value. It's pretty much the same from 16 to 17. From 17 to 18, we got hit fairly hard at that 3.44% decrease in the assessed values. That's why we went up from 4.480 to 497,423, which we are at currently. We went up, but since the values went down, and both those parts of the equation are equally important when you're trying to come up with a levy. We went up to the effective rate on that year from 4.8 to 497,423. So technically it was an increase to the tax rate, but being the effective rate, we went up to the effective rate in order to bring in the same tax levy that we did the previous year. I know that's a little convoluted way of saying it, but there's really no easy way to say it. It's a little complex, but y'all have dealt with this before. So you'll see right there on the tax assessment in 18, $2.223 million. It went up 0.07%. That's negligible. That's what we call bringing in the same amount of money this year as you did in the previous year. And so that 497, you went up 1.7 cents from the 0.48, but technically speaking, because the assessed values went down in the same proportion, you brought in 2.223 anybody has any questions on it, let me know. But what we're looking for as we move from 18 to 19, you see that the assessed values went up about 1.76%. We're looking to hold the tax rate at the 49.7 cents. That'll bring in at a 100% collection rate, which we don't budget for that, but a 1.76% increase to our tax levy. So that's kind of what we're looking at. What's interesting though is you looked at 497,423, the effective rate, which is the rate to bring in the same money as you did the previous year. The effective rate for 19 is 0.490995. It's less than a penny difference from what we're asking to budget. So if y'all said go back to the effective rate, we would do that, but you're only decreasing it by a fraction of a penny. That's how close we are to the effective rate. If you went the other way and asked us to go just below the rollback rate, then that would be significant. Rollback rate this year is close to 55 cents, and so we would get to raise it, 5-6 pennies or so. But we're not going that direction. We're just asking to hold the line on that and maintain that 497,423 number. We think it works for us and is the number that we put into this budget document. On the proposed revenue side, again, just to kind of look back, our sales tax we're budgeting at 2.98. On our property tax at 95% collection, which is about typical, 2.15 million. Our landfill fee, and I'll get into some of these fees here in a little bit as I move forward to the next slide or two. But our landfill fees we're proposing, we don't have currently a landfill fee. We would ask to assess $1 per month for all residential customers, and that's really to help with the cost of the landfill. We're constructing a new landfill. Along with that, we'll have to close the existing landfill. We have closure costs, we have post-closure costs, we have costs to keep and build and maintain the new landfill east of town on 20. And so that $42,000 annually would help toward that effort. I think it's time that we looked at something like that, and that dollar per customer is in the budget document. Miscellaneous lake lot fees for a cumulative total of $2,000. The residential security alarm fee adjustment from 20 to 30, and those fees are not in the ordinance that y'all just passed a little bit ago. They are going to be in the central rate schedule that goes into the budget. So the reason that we do that typically is because if you guys wanted to make a change to those fees for the alarms, you wouldn't have to do it in the alarm ordinance and the central rate schedule. So we just reference all the fees to the central rate schedule, and then you just do it once and you're done. So an increase in the enterprise funds franchise tax from 3 to 3.5%, giving us a revenue increase of $56,000 or so. An increase in the internal service labor rates, cumulative total of $20,000. When somebody takes a piece of equipment or a vehicle to Russell, there's rates that they charge that are per hour, and so we're asking for an increase to those. They're still way below the market rates that you would pay at a garage in town, but that'll help kind of keep up with some of the increases that we're seeing to that fund. On the water sales side, just a total of $4.86 million is what we're anticipating and budgeting for in water sales for fiscal 19. And in the sanitation department, revenue coming in at about $2.1 million. Again, the central rate schedule, the proposed changes for fiscal 19 that are in this budget document and won't be final until y'all approve them, is that landfill fee of $1 per month for all residential refuse customers. On the lake lot inspections, we don't currently have a fee for any of that. When we go out to inspect or mark boundaries, or for the water wells or the septic systems or the fencing, again, this is all out at the lake. New construction to an existing structure, we go out there and we perform that service, and we're glad to do it, but what we want to do and look at for 19 is to recoup our costs on that. In the previous slide or two, we're projecting about $2,000 in additional revenue, and that's really just to cover the costs. It's not a money-making enterprise type operation by any means, but at a minimum, we should try to recover our costs whenever we can. This is one way that we think we can do that. And again, that's for a total of $25 a time residential alarm fee from 20 to 30. We don't know how much that's going to total because we don't know a part of that equation yet. But as people start getting their permits and going online to do that, we can multiply it 30 times X and we'll get a number, and then we'll have that information for you at this time next year. So those are the proposed changes for this fiscal year in the central rate schedule, and that's kind of what we're looking at this time. And then all of the fees associated with the alarms as well. There's more than just the 20 to 30. There's the business side and all that. And that's in the budget document at the very, very back of it, the very last page of the central rate schedule. Proposed expenditures, these are items that are in the budget for fiscal 19. EMS and fire E-Force CAD for dispatch, $11,000 will be charged to fire, $11,000 will be charged to the EMS fund for that program. CID police vehicles, we got one through COG at an 84% funded grant, and so we're looking at paying the remaining 16%, which equates to about $5,000. So that is in the budget. Expenses for the election that you just called this morning, which will be held in November, about $50,000. That includes all the rentals we got to do for the machines and the voting machines and the tabulations and Patty's time and everybody else, election judges and whatnot. So that's an expense that we kind of tied ourselves to this morning by calling the election for November. The dry safe for the police department, evidence storage for the police department, about $14,000 there. A forklift and a dump truck. You're looking at a water wastewater CIP total of about $260,000. Again, as you know, that's not general fund, that's water fund. So that's coming from a different fund. A salometer for the airport, about $26,000. It's a safety issue and pilots coming in and all that. We're looking at making that upgrade out there, and then trying to get back on a rotation, an annual rotation to replace our warning system or sirens at $20,000 a piece. And so we hope to bring those back in the next several years, one per year, until we make our way around and replace all of them. It's an important emergency management component. And then, like I said earlier, just as important as the items that went in the budget, wanted to go over some of the items that did not make it into the budget. The comprehensive master plan, in one fiscal year, you'll probably spend between $50,000 to $60,000 on that, and it would probably be best if we're going to look at that to do it over 2 fiscal years, so you get some work done until September 30th, about $50,000 to $60,000. On October 1st, you continue kind of phase 2 of that master plan at about $50,000 or so. So in the aggregate, you're paying about $100,000 for a very, very important comprehensive master plan that at this time we don't have and aren't able to utilize. But it would make some sense to kind of look at that a little more seriously as we move into subsequent budget years. The Seal Coat project, this is one I want to touch on, because we do understand at the staff level the importance of the Seal Coat program. It serves to keep moisture out of the roadways and water from seeping in. You seal the roadways so that you get better drivability as a motorist in town. You seal the roadways so that you don't get that influx of moisture, especially having rain many inches. Thank the Lord for that in the last several days. That can wreak havoc on potholes and roadway systems. Isn't that right, Russell? So the three, I've always heard that the three greatest dangers to roadways are water, and water. And that's true. So we understand the importance of it. At $130,000, what we did in fiscal year 18, at this time, we did not budget, at this time last year, we did not budget that amount or a similar amount for Seal Coat, for the Seal Coat project. We just weren't in a position that we were able to do that. But if you remember, what I promised at the time was if there's an influx of money and if we do think we can afford it with the way that the budget goes as we enter the fiscal year and get into the fiscal year, we're going to find a way to do it. And that's what happened. We were in a good position and we were able to find a way to fund a Seal Coat project, which Russell and his crews, thank you all for the great work that you did on that, and the county helping out as well. we're able to, although we didn't budget it for fiscal year 18, we found a way to do it. We brought a budget amendment to y'all, April or May or so, and y'all were kind enough to pass that for us, and we found the money to do it. So we did it. So that kind of framework worked this year. Not saying that it's going to work every year, but that's kind of what we're looking at as a proposal. To go ahead and let's not put it in the budget. Now, if we do put it in the budget, we'd have to find it $130,000. That 130 is equal to Patty 3 pennies or so on the tax roll.
3 pennies is about 136,000.
Okay, so right about 3 pennies on the tax roll. So that 130 number doesn't look particularly large, but when you put it in that context, adding 3 pennies to the tax roll to pay for it, for example, that changes the perspective a little bit, and we could cut $130,000 out of the budget and pay for it now. We could raise it 3 pennies or so and pay for it now and get it in the budget document. We could do a combination of finding revenue and cutting expenses to try to find that $130,000. The challenge with that is that we've tried to do that, and it's really a bare bones type budget, and it's been difficult for us to try to find in August $130,000 in this budget document. What I would propose, like I said, is to, and I think that the thing that helps us with waiting is that we don't have to order the materials until May or June of next year. So we've got until October from now, really, to about that time period, early next summer, to try to see how the revenues come in on the sales tax side, to see if there's other expenses that we can cut mid-budget cycle, to see if there's any revenues that we can try to be more aggressive on and bring in the next 6, 7, 8 months, and see where we are at that point, and really make the decision late spring, early next summer, as opposed to making the decision now and having to cut or having to raise. So I'm throwing that on the table for y'all. Chew on that a little while. If y'all give us another direction, go out and find the 130 because we want it in the budget now, that's what we'll do. It's going to be a little challenging, and it may involve, probably would involve a combination of cutting and raising. I'll just be honest with you about that. But we'll do it. We'll do it. But like I said, the recommendation at this point is to do what we did this year. Wait until May or June, and then see how things go up until that point. I said last year, I'll say it again, I promise you that the first thing that we'll fund, if we're able to, is the Silco project, just like we did this year. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Just need everyone to shop Sweetwater.
That really help, sir. Absolutely. If not, I'll move on to some of the other unfunded items. Police personnel, Chief Frida threw that on the table, times 6. It cost us about $380,000. We were not able to do that, or even a portion of that this fiscal year. Police vehicles times 4 at $213,000. The ladder truck, you'll see the 2 numbers there. The 1.1 represents a new ladder truck. We've all seen how you can fight fires from above. It really keeps our personnel safe. It gives us a better chance of saving life and property. We're able to do that. Currently, if we have a need for a ladder truck, we'll call them in from Snyder or Abilene, and it just takes them a little while to get here. But if we had one in the station, our response time would be really, really quick. At $500,000, we think we know we can get a good used ladder truck for use in the community, but neither the new or the used are in this budget document at this time. We also proposed a street drainage project at $15,000. That's not in. Brian proposed a radar message board to alert drivers to the speed as they're going down, let's say 17th, and they're traveling a little bit fast. It'll flash. We've all seen that. None of us speed when we do it, but you all see that it flashes your current speed at you. 2 of those at about $48,000. And some items from the CIP that we've put off to later years, a restroom at Lake Sweetwater, baseball field lighting at $80,000. A website upgrade, which I talked about before, about $30,000 to port the electronic portal to our community. So I just wanted to kind of plant that seed. These are items that are not in the budget, but are very, very important now and in the future. And I'd like for us to pay close attention to that Civco project. We understand what that means to our infrastructure out in the community. It's just a matter of the dollars at this point. But like I said, if the direction is go find it, we'll go find it. Okay.
I think not doing it is gonna cost us more than $130,000 in the future.
Sure. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do it, because we didn't budget for it last year and we ended up doing it, thankfully, this year. It just wouldn't be in the budget, and then, so you're kind of behind the 8 ball at that point. But I totally agree, we all totally agree, with the importance of the Civco project. It's just getting it in the budget document. But getting in the budget document and doing it or not doing it, sometimes are different things, like it was in fiscal 18. It wasn't in the budget document, but yet we were able to do it. But I agree with you, sir, 100%.
All those together represent about $2 million, is that right?
That's probably pretty close, with that ladder truck being the most costly. Yes, sir.
With the new ladder truck.
With the new at 1.1, yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we'll head back to the drawing board. Patty and I'll get together after this meeting and see what we can do about, maybe even closing the gap on that 130. You know, we don't necessarily have to get all the way there. Maybe we can fund half of the streets that we normally do at half of the 130, something like 65. So we'll see what we can do. Again, it's good that we're having this conversation. I needed that feedback to see what we need to do between now and the time the budget is finalized, and we'll have until about September to make that so. Unless there's anything else on the unfunded items, just real quick on kind of focusing on the items that were funded on the personnel and payroll side. We did fund a 3.3 cost of living adjustment for all funds, all employees, at $220,000. We are doing some merit adjustments to about less than 10% or so of our employees at 32.5. We do have currently a part-time. Y'all did fund a part-time animal control officer, for which we have not been able to fill that position. And it may or may not be because it's part-time, and we're thinking that's probably, that's a good reason why we maybe haven't been able to fill it. So we're looking to increase that position or upgrade it from part-time to full-time at a cost of $44,600, and that is in the general fund. Full-time meter reader in the water utility fund at that $44,600, and then a full-time service tech in internal services at that same amount of $44,600. That's an annualized amount for these 3 positions, only which one is in the general fund. And then just to kind of go over our budget calendar, on June 12th, a couple of months ago, we had the budget workshop. I gave a similar presentation. On July 25th, the chief appraiser certified the tax roll. That's where we're getting these updated numbers from that went in the budget on the property tax side. On August 14th, which is today, we presented the proposed budget to the city commission, and the subsequent item subsequent to this will set the public hearing date on the budget for September 11th. We'll have the notice of public hearing on the budget in the newspaper. We'll start to get those notices at the end of this month. And then kind of the real work starts in September as far as having our public hearings on the appropriation ordinance, the rate schedule, the budget ordinance, the ordinance to amend this current year budget, fiscal year 18 budget. We'll start having our public hearings on the proposed tax rates of 49.7. We'll do kind of the same thing in September, on September 11th and 18th, and then the 25th we'll have 3 meetings in September as we always do, and then we'll conclude all of the budget stuff on September 25th, and then October 1st, just the next week, we'll start the whole thing all over again and enter fiscal year 2019. So again, I'd like to thank the staff again, because we make light of it, but this budget stuff never stops. It's just, September 25th comes and everybody shakes hands and gives high fives and we got through it. And we look forward to the budget document and working those projects that are in the budget. And then the next day, Patty gets started on the fiscal year 20. Sounds strange to say it, but at this time next year, we're looking at fiscal 20-year budget. And then it just never stops. And the directors are always looking at ways to kind of, get past obstacles and save money and combine positions and those kinds of things. That work never stops. And I just like to thank them again for all the great work that they do, and then the commissioners as well, and commissioners for all the outstanding work that you do and helping us pass the budget and giving us feedback. So that's all I had, unless you all have any questions.
The $50,000 for the charter election, does that include posting the propositions, paying for the advertising to post propositions in the paper?
We estimated that portion of it in the 50,000, but I've been in contact with the newspaper, and what they need from us is a PDF of the English and the Spanish language translation for everything, which is about 71,000 words, give or take. And so once I get that, we'll give it over to Joseph. They'll give us an estimate for what that will cost. Anything else?
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
We'll now move to item 5J, which is discuss, consider, and act upon scheduling a public hearing for September the 11th on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2018-19.
Do we just need a motion to have it?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll now move to item 5K, which is discuss, consider, and act upon setting public hearings for September the 11th and September 18th, 2018, to discuss proposed tax rate of .497423 per $100 valuation for tax year 2018.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now move to the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. We just have a few items to share with everybody on speaking of budgets, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award was presented to Patty and the city. Nice thing there. Certificate of recognition for budget preparation presented to Patty with the city of Sweetwater. That's umpteenth years in a row, Patty, or something like that. Is that the right term? So congratulations again to Patty and her staff for this award. They're not easy to get. We get them just about every year, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. So,
Well, I'd like to add, we're one of the few cities our size that
Sure.
do obtain this. So congratulations, Patty. That's a lot of hard work. You've done a good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you.
Also, the sale of trust property. This is a project that the city is doing along with the CDMDD. And Ken, thank you for your leadership on that and your board's leadership on that. We appreciate it. We've gone into an agreement with Texas Communities Group. And in fact, representatives of that organization were in town yesterday placing for sale signs on these lots. And these are lots that are trust property lots located within the city, and what we hired this company to do is help us market those and get them on, hopefully get them back on the tax rolls. There's information on our website. If you just want to Google Texas Communities Group as well, there's a portal there so that you can bid on these, you can view them, the descriptions, identify them on a map, see where they're located within the city, and bid on them. There's a bid process that's part of it in order to win or to purchase your lot. So there's some information there, and again, just want to thank Texas Communities Group, the CDMDD, Ken, your board, and the commissioners for allowing us to go down this path. We're doing some good things to try to get those properties back on the tax rolls, and this is one great idea that Ken and Larissa had on this for how to make that happen. And the last item that I had, Mayor and Commissioners, was we're taking a look at the staff level, an update to our HR, our Human Resources Personnel Policy Manual. It hasn't been, like the charter, it hasn't been since 1947 that we've taken a look at it. It's been 7 or 8 years, a reasonable amount of time. But we feel it's a little past time to take a look at that and just kind of see where we are as far as following any changes to state or federal law on labor practices and those kinds of things. And there's some things that are missing there that we need to address. And so we'll be bringing back, bringing that for approval or discussion to the commissioners. We don't want to rush it. At first, we're thinking October 1st might be a good time to get it into place and approved. But now we're probably thinking January 1st as a go date on that, which means during the fall we'll be bringing it, giving you all copies of it for study, and allow time for questions. That'll also allow time for us to train the staff on some of these new things that we'll be looking at. I don't anticipate big sweeping changes to the policy manual, but there are going to be some tweaks for sure. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, sir. Item 7 calls for public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak?
On that, part about the ladder truck, I drive by one sitting out at the old fire department training, I don't know, what's the deal on that?
That's out of service, out of commission.
Out of commission?
Yes, sir.
No way to fix it?
No,
I
sir.
think there's a pump that's out on it that's, because of its age, is not fixable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll now move to item 8, which is to enter into closed session pursuant to section 551.07 for personnel matters on the Texas Government Code of the City of Sweetwater. We'll consult with closed session with its attorney to receive legal advice regarding pending or complicated litigation, a settlement offer, or matter in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the state of Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct to the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the act to include the following purposes: discussion and evaluation of the performance, salary, and benefits of the city manager.
Move we enter into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into executive session. Are we going back there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.